Hi there, my name is Matti Sulanto, and in this video I'm going to be shooting some macro here deep in the jungle of Malaysia. But before we try to find any bugs, please consider subscribing to my channel and tap the bell somewhere there so you get notified whenever I post a new video, and I'll post a new video twice a week. At this point, I think it's a good idea to let my local guide tell a little bit about the location we're at. So, what is this place?
This place is called Bukit Gasing. It is an educational research center. It is also a very popular hiking trail for the locals. If you come here during the weekends, we will get a lot of people using this track, hike, and you can actually go quite far deep into the jungle. This is a very...
Hey, Robin, this is not what we agreed. I just said we're deep in the jungle.
Oh. So yeah, this is a very popular spot for the locals.
So not deep in the jungle after all.
No, it is not. Not that deep.
By the way, you have a really nice t-shirt.
Of course, I got it from the best.
And my gear today is the Lumix G90 Micro Four Thirds camera body and the Panasonic Leica Macro 45mm f2.8 lens. In this kind of photography, I don't think you need really like a lot of special equipment, but a macro lens is pretty much a must, or at least some sort of a close-up lens or whatever you can get. I'm using a 45mm lens, which I think it's pretty much it's like 90mm equivalent in full frame terms, and I think it's pretty much the minimum focal length you can use well in this kind of macro photography. You need a little bit like a long telephoto macro lens, otherwise you're going to be going too close to those little creatures and they will just escape and fly away. So a short telephoto macro lens is pretty much the optimal lens for this kind of insect photography. Then I also have a flash, and I think that is also pretty much a must when you are doing macro like we are doing today. My flash is very inexpensive Yongnuo YN560. Then I have a remote control for the flash, and I also have a softbox. Let me take it out. Like this. It's this kind of a flat softbox. That my flash goes in here, and I get nice like soft light for the box. You need the flash because you want to be able to stop down to about maybe f8, f11 range for enough depth of field for those small creatures. And without the flash, you're gonna need to bump up the ISO unnecessarily high. And also because we are now in like the natural environment of the box, we need some like extra light to be able to get the good light on our subject. I think some people are capturing those little bugs and taking them to some artificial environment, but that's a whole other thing. I'm not doing it, and I don't think Robin behind the camera is doing that either. So we need some extra light to be able to modify the natural light just a bit. And in this case, we're using the sunlight pretty much as the background light, and our flash as our main light to light our subject. we're going to be using manual focus also, even though the autofocus in our cameras on Lumix and other cameras too is really good. But I think manual focus works better. You set maybe the closest focusing distance and then move your camera just a bit to get your subject in focus. But having just said that, autofocus also works well for some macro subjects. And based on my experience, the shutter button focus is the best way to use autofocus for macro. In my general photography, I'm using the back button focus, so I had to activate the shutter button focus for this particular shoot. And we're also not using tripod. I think tripod just slows you down and makes it all too cumbersome to work in this kind of environment. All the exposure settings we're gonna use today, and I suggest if you do any macro, you do the same thing. Use all manual settings. I'm choosing my camera's exposure to match the background of the image where the sunlight hits, and I use my flashlight, all manual mode, to get the correct exposure on my subject. So all manual, ambient light, background ambient light with the camera's exposure, and the subject, which is the creature or bug or whatever, that is controlled. The lighting of that is controlled by the flash unit I have here. Even though I was talking about the sun hitting the background and balancing the flash with the ambient light, but sometimes you just have to settle for the black or dark background, because if the creature is where it is, there's nothing you can do. And if you want the shot, you just have to take the dark kind of background, but sometimes it can also work fine. Even though we are trying to catch some creatures, bugs here, you have to remember that macro can be something else too. It doesn't have to be an animal. It can be a part of a plant or some like detail in the forest or in the nature. There's a frog there on one of the leaves, but the flash is not working here. The background is gonna be all black, so I'm gonna try to get it without a flash. I got this reflector softbox type of thing just for this trip. It was pretty inexpensive in Finland, about what, 30 euros, and I think I like it. This was the first time I really used it, which is really wise. Buy something new and head out to shoot something without even trying your new equipment. That's something you should never do, actually. But it worked really well, and I like how it folds to a really small space. I think this was sold under some Falcon Eyes brand, but I'm sure you can get these under many brands. But look how small it is. I really like this, and if you want something like this, a small foldable softbox for your flash gun, I think this is very nice. Give it a try. It's been certainly fun, and it's been quite hot and humid day. So I think we are gonna wrap this up and head back to KL city and have some lunch. But I'd like to hear if you guys tried macro and what kind of results you got and what kind of techniques are you using. And thanks so much again for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.